If you've been following immigration news recently, you've probably seen a lot of headlines that sound alarming. People are saying USCIS is changing everything. Others are claiming certain immigration options are disappearing. And some immigrants are wondering whether the updates announced in the recent months could affect their pending cases. So what is actually happening? Should you be worried? And more importantly, could these changes impact your immigration journey? Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Rachel Ratto, an immigration attorney. One of the most common questions I've been receiving lately is, Rachel, I heard USCIS changed the rules. Will this affect my case? And the answer is maybe, but probably not for the reasons people think. The biggest mistake I see people making after major immigration updates is assuming every change applies to everyone. That's rarely the case. Today, I want to break down what we've been seeing, what these updates actually mean, and what immigrants should be paying attention to in 2026. Let's start with something important. Whenever there are major immigration announcements, social media tends to amplify fear. A headline gets posted, someone shares it, then another person interprets it, and before you know it, thousands of people believe a rule applies to them when it actually doesn't. That's why it's important to slow down and focus on facts. One of the biggest themes we've seen recently is increased scrutiny. Now, increased scrutiny does not necessarily mean increased denials. Those are two different things. What it means is that immigration officers may be taking a closer look at applications, supporting evidence, and eligibility requirements. For applicants, this means documentation matters more than ever. If you're filing an immigration benefit, whether it's family-based, employment-based, humanitarian relief, or another category, you should expect your evidence to be reviewed carefully. This is not the time to submit incomplete applications or rely on assumptions. It's the time to be organized. Another trend we've been seeing involves discretionary decisions. A lot of people don't realize that some immigration benefits involve discretion. In other words, even when someone meets the basic requirements, immigration officers may still be able to evaluate additional factors before making a final decision. That's why details matter. Your immigration history matters. Your documentation matters. The way your case is presented matters. And this is one reason why legal guidance can be so valuable. Now let's talk about enforcement. This is another area where there's been a lot of confusion. Many immigrants hear about increased enforcement activity and immediately assume that everyone is suddenly at risk. The reality is much more nuanced. Different agencies have different responsibilities. Different policies affect different groups. And not every announcement changes the day-to-day reality for every immigrant in the United States. However, what these discussions should remind people is the importance of understanding their current immigration situation. I often meet individuals who have lived in the United States for years, but aren't completely sure what options may be available to them. Maybe they entered many years ago. Maybe they have a family member who could petition for them. Maybe they qualify for humanitarian relief. Maybe they have a path they haven't explored. When immigration policies receive attention, it's often a good reminder to review your situation and understand your options. Another important topic involves documentation and consistency. One thing USCIS continues to emphasize is the importance of accurate information. This sounds simple, but it's an area where many applicants run into problems. Information should be consistent. Applications should be complete. Supporting documents should clearly support the claims being made. If there are inconsistencies, unanswered questions, or missing evidence, those issues can create delays and complications. This isn't new, but it's becoming increasingly important. Let's also talk about rumors, because honestly, some of the worst immigration advice I've seen recently has come from social media. Someone hears about a policy update, they make a video, another person repeats it. Soon, people are making life-changing decisions based on incomplete information. Please don't do that. Immigration law is extremely fact-specific. What affects one person may have absolutely no effect on another. That's why it's so dangerous to rely on generalized advice. Whenever you hear about a major immigration update, ask yourself, does this actually apply to my case? What category does this update affect? What exactly changed? And where am I getting my information? Those questions alone can help you avoid a lot of unnecessary stress. Now, if you're currently waiting for a decision from USCIS, you may be wondering whether whether these updates mean your case is automatically in danger. The answer is no. In most situations, a policy announcement doesn't automatically mean a pending case will be denied. What it does mean is that applicants should remain informed, continue monitoring their case, respond promptly to requests from USCIS, and make sure they understand any changes that may affect their category. And finally, I want to leave you with this. Immigration law changes, policies change, enforcement priorities change, administrations change, but one thing remains constant. The strongest cases are usually the cases that are well prepared. People who understand their options, people who stay informed, people who keep good records, people who seek qualified legal guidance when necessary. Those are the individuals who put themselves in the best possible position regardless of what changes may come next. If you've been hearing about recent USCIS updates and you're wondering whether they could affect your immigration case, don't rely on rumors, social media comments, or secondhand information. Take the time to understand your specific situation. Our office helps individuals and families evaluate their immigration options and navigate changing immigration policies with confidence. If you'd like to discuss your case, contact our office to schedule a consultation. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe.